Okay, good morning, class. Can anybody tell me what is going on in this image? Yep, there's a heart with a walking stick. What else? The heart's wearing sunglasses. Yeah, and why do you think the heart is wearing dark sunglasses? Ah, because he's blind. Yes. And what do you think this picture represents? Does it symbolize something? Ah, maybe Valentine's Day. Yeah. What else? Love. Yes. So, does anyone know the expression illustrated by this picture? Love is blind. Very good. So, what does it mean for love to be blind? Does it literally mean that love can't see? No. So, what do you think it means? That we can't see what's wrong with somebody because we love them so much. Right. So, love is blind is an idiom. It's an expression that's used in English, and it's also an analogy, but we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. Does the expression make sense to you? What do you think it means? Okay, that because there are chemicals in our brain when we're in love, we literally can't see reality. That is one way of looking at it. Very scientific, yes. Um, And do you have a similar expression like this in your country? What about in Spanish, Joaquin? El ciego es amor. Perdón. El amor es ciego. Ah, good. Interesting. And Omar, what about in Arabic and Berber? Yes? Huh, huh. And Jinsuk in Korean? Yeah, huh. And Joe in Mandarin? They have something like love is blind? Yeah. Wow, interesting. Yeah, I'm fascinated by how these expressions will cross over languages. Really interesting, guys. Okay, great. So now that we have warmed up a little bit, let's talk about today's objectives. So we are going to learn about analogies and why they are useful. We're going to listen to Alanis Morissette's song Ironic, and you will hear that it's not actually that ironic at all. Do you guys remember our lesson on irony? What does it mean? Yeah, when somebody means something different than what they're saying, and usually the opposite of what they're saying. Like if I say, great, it's raining again, but it's really not great at all because it's been raining for 30 days. That kind of thing. That's the idea. Okay, so once we've listened to Alanis Morissette's song, then we're going to do a fill in the blank exercise based on the song, and we are also going to look for analogies in that song. And then we're going to write some sentences with analogies in groups, and then we're going to do a speaking exercise using analogies with a partner. Okay, so any questions? Nope. Okay, let's move on to the lesson then. So, an analogy is when we compare one thing to another. It can be poetic, it can be used to clarify, it can also be used to talk about feelings. Actually, that's a really useful way of talking about feelings when you don't want to use feeling words, is to use an analogy. Actually, you'll also hear a lot of English speakers use analogies when they're speaking. And I think if you look for it more and more, you'll see it more and more, and hopefully you'll start using them as well. So, an example is do you remember our fish out of water stories? Yeah? Okay, well, fish out of water is feeling like a fish out of water is an analogy. It's also a simile, we'll find out, but we'll talk about that more later. So, does anyone remember what it means? Yeah, feeling uncomfortable or out of place. So, feeling like a fish out of water, saying that I feel like a fish out of water can be a lot easier to say than using the actual feeling word, which is feeling like rejected. So this is a very American way of expressing a feeling, is skipping over the feeling word and using an analogy instead. Okay? So getting back to analogies, there are two types of analogies. There are similes and there are metaphors. Similes, you will see the actual word like and or as in them, one or the other. And in metaphors, you won't. So you might see the word is, you might see the word are. So basically, if you're looking at an analogy and you don't see a like or an as, then it's going to be a metaphor. And if you do see a like or an as, then it's going to be a simile. Make sense? Okay. So we're going to clarify, we're going to watch this short 3-minute video. It's another explanation of similes and metaphors. I find it helpful to hear an explanation again by somebody else when we're learning these new things. And it's also kind of fun because it's an animated song. So I've had the song stuck in my head for days now. Hopefully you will as well. And okay, so let's go ahead and play it. And please listen for the rules regarding similes and metaphors as you're watching the video. Okay, so did you like the video? Yeah? Great. Do you want to try to use those kinds of sing-songy grammar videos again? Yeah? Okay, great. I like them too. Wonderful. So any questions? No? Okay, so let's move on to some examples to further clarify similes and metaphors.